I'm the natural resources agent at the University of Delaware Cooperative Extension. Obviously, our partners at Sussex Conservation District, we have Siobhan Kelly, I saw Jessica Watson just walked in, and my colleague, Tracy Woodward, is horticulture agent here. A lot of work going on with trying to help homeowners learn about their open spaces and stormwater management areas. And so today, this is a long presentation, but I'm going to condense it down to 30 minutes and really kind of focus on some of the demonstrations that I've been working on. And each year that goes by, I have new challenges, new successes, new failures, and I'd love to share them with you today. So first, we'll just go through and just do really quickly some of what the stormwater management system you can expect to see. It's a little bit of review probably from last time, and if you were here last year, same thing. There's wet ponds that have a permanent pool, contains water year round. Obviously, that increases the management requirements for those because you have to deal with water quality, algae, all of those type of things, plus public safety issues. Then you also have your vegetated bumpers. Here's a standard design. Water flows in to a forebay. Forebay treats the water, then it goes into here, and it gets a little bit more treatment before it goes out to the natural water bodies. What's treatment? It's basically just letting pollutants, sediments, any other type of trash, things like that, organic materials settle out, hopefully in a forebay, so it's easier to clean the forebay out and not have to dredge the whole pond. And then so technically you're going to be getting cleaner water on the other end. There's several different designs, just a couple of examples. 30 minutes goes by quick, so if I talk too fast, go ahead and stop me and ask me questions. But this is just the basic design of what you can expect for your stormwater management system. If your system's older, you probably don't have forebay. And if you don't, I would really recommend having your contractor or whoever manages your pond check the inlet structures and make sure that wherever that buildup is right there, either try to keep that clear, but definitely looking at the buildup of sediments over time, so you don't get hit with a big bill if you end up having to do something major. Dry ponds, there's no permanent pool. It's a little bit easier to manage because you don't have the permanent pool to manage water quality, algae issues. And this thing is going to hold water. It's only supposed to hold it for about 48 hours. So if you have a dry pond, that's the design, and it has water past 48 hours, you want to find out what's going on there because something's not working. And it works the same way where you have a forebay, water comes in, treated in the forebay, rolls into the dry portion of it, and then eventually goes out the outfall into the natural water bodies. Same concept, things are supposed to settle out here, and then you're supposed to get cleaner water on the other side. If you have a major rain event, it might not work as well as it's going to do in some of the lesser ones. They're designed, engineers are way smarter than I am. If you have questions for them, feel free, but they design these things to handle certain levels of rain events. And as you guys have known and heard and seen, they're getting worse by the year, especially those ones that are just like a lot of rain in a really short period of time. These systems, especially the older ones, are not necessarily designed to handle that as well. And a lot of them in the older times were designed for more quality than quantity than quality. So there's a lot of different designs that are in these stormwater management areas, but it used to be let's get the water away with less focus on water quality. Now there's a lot more focus on water quality because we know what's happened in our natural water bodies with sediment, pollutants, and nutrient overload. Bioretention facility is another really just quick and dirty example of that. You're basically going to excavate an area that receives stormwater management. You're going to put in there's some different types of mixtures that have sand and bioswale and different things that help filter out the water. I'm not going to go into major detail on that, but basically this is going to function a little bit similar to a dry pond. So your management is going to be with plants, and then just making sure that the water still flows through the system. Some of them have under pipes that you want to make sure stay working because again, these are designed that the water doesn't stay there very long. So if you have one of these and it's holding water for a longer period of time, you need to figure out what's going on there. Something engineering wise is not working right. And it could be as simple as something's plugged up. I've literally had to pull a dead turtle out of an outfall structure to make the pond work. It clogged up, it backed up on a ton of water just from the turtle getting stuck in there. It could also be as simple as just organic material building up. A plastic bag can get over the low flow hole and really clog it up. Like it's amazing how quickly those ponds get backed up. So having someone make sure that those are clear and things are flowing through there, you'll tell when there's a problem with things on the Vegetated channels, same thing. These just move water and hopefully do a little bit of treatment on them. Probably a little bit less with vegetated channels than some of these ponds, but it's moving stormwater away, but also giving it a little bit of treatment by hopefully having something. This is similar to like a forebay where the water goes in there first, the sediments, trash, pollution, you're hoping to stay there, and then it goes up and then it gets a little bit more treatment in the vegetated channel. You know, works well sometimes, sometimes it might not. You have ditch systems. We've talked about that, tax ditches before. Tax ditches and private ditches are functioning the same way, except for tax ditches are a recognized governmental subdivision within the state, and it has an association managed. Well, the people in the watershed manage it, but if you guys, so that's another interesting thing. If you guys live in a development and there's a tax ditch watershed that includes your development, you can serve on that board. They probably need your help, and you probably should have input in there because it's serving your community. Like the drainage is going to go through that tax ditch at one point or another. So there's a tax ditch map. Just Google Delaware tax ditch map. And you can go on, you can find the watersheds. They're notated on there. You can see if you fall within one of those, and then try to find a way to do that. And private ditches do the same thing. They've been dug to drain the area. They're just owned by a private landowner. So the private landowner is responsible for that. And sometimes these run into each other. So, you know, being friendly with your neighbor sometimes might be good, especially if you guys all have a drainage issue and those are connected together. Here is an example of the tax ditch map. This is with LiDAR data. LiDAR is light that kind of works like similar to sonar. It checks elevations. In this picture, the lighter yellower type of colors are higher elevation, and the more purples are lower. So you can actually see on this map, like where ditches are, where there's low spots. And this one is notated as a private ditch because there's no markings on there. So really quickly, this is the ditch itself, and this here on each side, this is a right of way. And so you can look on there, and if your community does have this, you can see where your right of way is. So if you have your shed in the right of way, you might want to think about moving that because if they need to come in and do maintenance, they have to do what they have to do. So this is a really good information for you guys in management with that. And I can guarantee you, go ahead.
So you go to these maps, the blue are the publicly managed ones.
So it's not public. So it's a subdivision recognized by the government, but it's still managed by the people in the watershed.
And are they government people or?
No, those are landowners are responsible for doing that. There is technical assistance available from the state. The Denver Grants Program does have some technical assistance, and sometimes they do help with some of the work, but it is the responsibility of those served by that tax.
So the blue line on these maps would indicate the tax.
Yes. Okay. And then it also shows you which way it flows. You see the arrows. So that's showing that the water is moving this way, which you can kind of tell with the low spot anyway. But the watershed, so you might see this tax ditch and then this purple line here, those are the boundaries. And if you ever have questions and want more information, I'll happily visit with people and kind of show you. The drainage program in Denver may also be able to do that as well, but you'll see the watershed is going to be much bigger than just where everybody within that area has a responsibility in our tax to do so. Now the tax is like dollars per year. It's not enough money to manage it. And that's been the issue. But you are being taxed if you're in those to manage it.
So if nobody is actively managing that,
Yeah,
it just,
happens all the time.
so if there's, if a problem arises, A, who finds out about it, and B, what's done about it?
That's a great question. Motivated landowners find out about it usually, and then they find out who is running their tax ditch, if anyone, because there are inactive ones and there are active ones, and then they figure out how to do it. The first step would definitely be contacting the Denver Drainage Program if you're not familiar, because they have a tax ditch section that's like just there to help folks who are in it.
What would you have
Denver Drainage Program, and ask for their tax ditch section.
Don't the managers of those ditches, aren't they required to send out notification of an annual meeting of some sort?
I don't know exactly how all that works.
I'd say Wes could probably answer the question.
Yeah, so if you have questions, send them.
We get a notification.
Yeah, because they have some tax kit representatives as well. Yep. Yeah, that's right, that's right. You guys do a lot of work with
We do a
taxes
lot of
as well, so they
taxes,
can, there's some help there with SCD as well. But yeah, I would recommend going on there because if you're in Sussex County and you have a development, it's likely that you're buttoned up for one of these or served by one of them. There's at-home stormwater management. We won't talk about that today. I do a whole other session on this, but there's things you can do at home to reduce the amount of water that makes it to these systems so they're not as stressed out. Aesthetics vegetation management. I'm going to move through really quick because my time is short. But I want to talk about my demonstration. So I have a grant, two grants that I'm working with demonstrations on. One of them is called the Extension Implementation Grant, and that is through the National Institute for Food and Agriculture. And it's a big grant that covers the agriculture research out here. It covers some of the horticulture things we do. And then also I'm in the community section, so I'm working with in the community to show some demonstrations how to attract beneficial predator insects. So there's so many reasons to plant a meadow, right? There's water quality issues, there's climate issues, there's pollinator protection, wildlife, all of those things. I'm also trying to show there's beneficial predatory insects that are attracted to the home landscape and help reduce those pest populations. So maybe you can use a little bit less insecticides in the landscape. Now, is it going to solve all your problems? No, it's just another tool in the tool. But these things do come here and you'll see some of those insects feeding on some of the This is one of the demonstrations we're doing. But again, it's for all of those other reasons that I mentioned as well. Ways to manage your space. I have seeded meadows that I've done. For more naturalistic and bigger plantings, it's going to be cheaper than using plugs. It's still going to cost a little bit of money. There's preparation involved. If you're going to seed a meadow, it's not free. It's not no maintenance. It is maybe lower, but you should still stay on top of these meadows and things like that. But we'll talk about how we plant them and some of the challenges and successes I've had. Herbaceous plugs for smaller plantings. So if you have, like, for instance, one of my projects is right at the front of the development in Lewis. It's very visible. So, I like wild, I like more natural looking things, but that doesn't belong at the front of the dome. I understand that. So as you'll see, we hired a student to help design that and make it look a little bit more planned and acceptable in those areas. Formalized plantings for aesthetics. It can also be accent planting. So say you plant a meadow in a visible area, well, you can add some accent plantings on the corners, or if you mow a path through there, you can put some of those accent plantings there to help with those aesthetics, right? So instead of just coming right up to a meadow, maybe you have a little bit of landscape plants at the front, trees, shrubs, herbaceous plugs, and then it goes back into that meadow. Whereas those formalized plantings need more maintenance. You're going to have to weed those. You're going to have to keep those looking good. Whereas the meadow, you have a little bit less maintenance involved in that. We also want to use trees, shrubs, and vines. I've been trying to show some demonstrations on some of those species that you can select for that. I'm still working on those lists, but there's a lot of great native plant lists out there. I'm trying to put everything just to add a little bit of structure, a little bit of increased and stretching out that blooming window. So we want to have blooming plants in these areas for as long as we can. So the early blooming ones, usually trees and shrubs. Most of the time, trees and shrubs are blooming longer than the herbaceous plants. And then the later blooming things, most of the time, are like your goldenrods and asters. So, am I out of order here? No, I'm not. Okay. So my first demonstration is a seeded meadow at Waste Management in Laurel, not too far from here. So up here, they've got a yard where they have recycling trucks and things like that. All of their stormwater is served by this pond. And so what they've traditionally been doing is they mow all of this right down to the ground, right? So I floated the idea, and they're also open to wanting to add wildlife area. They would actually want to be certified on habitat area. And this is one of the things that we're doing, working with them to meet their needs and expectations while also doing our demonstration. So this is I did 3 plots here with different seed mixes to demonstrate what they would look like. And we'll go over how I prepped those and how we planted them. Now, since this was small, we did all this by hand. And Dr. Susan Barton, who was just recently hired from the University of Delaware, did a lot of research on maintaining and establishing meadows across the state on the highways and things like that. So there's several different ways that she has outlined here. This QR code will take you to that website. We have a fact sheet that takes you step by step in meadow preparation and management. And I just selected a few of them.
We also have one of her presentations on our website.
That's right. So Siobhan has been great about recording all these series that we do and making them available on the Sussex Conservation District website. And so Dr. Barton did a whole section on just that. And so if you want to see her in action, watch that, and she'll go over basically all of those types of things and show you some of the research that she's done. I am not a PhD, so I don't do research. I do demonstrations. So right here, we've got, we're at this right next to the stormwater pond. So you see how kind of close we are. What I'd like to see is I'd like to see this right here, which is about 2 feet wide. I mean, that's a start, I guess, but we'd like to see that way farther up here. And now I left this alone because I just didn't want to like get involved with all that. And this puck, it's not meant to be more aesthetic, it's more demonstrating the seed mixes. And I'll show you what they look like soon. It's a great demonstration. And so treated, we'd like to say once about 3 weeks before we put the seed mix down. I came back and did a spot treatment a week later. This is not a really challenging site. I have not had weed pressure here at all, which has been great. And that's not the same with all the other ones. So this one, I had a couple of Delaware Master Naturalists help me out with this, and we ordered sawdust. So that's the one thing when you're seeding a meadow, you want to, according to Dr. Barton's research, you want to use a organic material, mix the seed in your organic material, aerate, then spread, and that helps with several things. It helps add organic material to some of these more challenging sites. It also helps with weed suppression, especially with the organic material I use, which was sawdust. So sawdust, the one good thing about sawdust is, number one, you know it's not gonna have weed seed in it because it's not been treated that way. It's literally wood that's been chopped up into sawdust, so we don't have to worry about weeds. Sometimes using compost and mushroom soil, if you don't get the right place, you don't get the right treatment on it, you might have a lot of weeds, and I have experienced that terribly. And so just making sure that when you're getting compost and mushroom soil, make sure you get some clean stuff, because it can really set you back. But that is an excellent organic material, so it makes it seedless and spread. And so I picked 3 different seed mixes and the reasons why. So we have a native pollinator mix without grasses. So I wanted to show there's some folks who are like, I need all 4. I want 4, I want 4, I want 4. So I did a demonstration on that. I also did the same mix, but I added grasses in there, and I want to see that I added grasses in here. And what I did is I chose aggressive warm season grasses because I wanted to show how that might look using aggressive warm season grasses. Then I also chose another mix that is a little bit different, has a lot of the same species, but a few different, has grasses in it, but I didn't select for the aggressive warm season grasses, some of the less aggressive ones that we show up. All right, so like I said, these things turned out awesome. Like, and when I say awesome, it's not just the aesthetics. I think they look great, and people may have mixed opinions on that. But why they're great is because they did what I thought they would do. And so this one here is this is the one that has grasses in it, but it's also a pollinator mix. This one had the aggressive warm season grasses in it, in case you couldn't tell. And this one had no grasses. Now these grasses right here are coming from that guy right there. So you can see how those warm season grasses are really aggressive. The ones that we selected that are really aggressive are the Indian grass, and sometimes switchgrass can be, but I really think it's the Indian grass here that's being pretty aggressive. So it's moving even in there a little bit. So what's great about this, and you can see these 3. So this is them 3. This is the one that has grasses. This is the one that has aggressive grasses and no grasses. And so one of the things that you'll see here is it's a stark difference. And next year it can look different even again. So each year it's going to look a little different. But it's a really good example of if you select if you're okay with, and it's as good to have aggressive grasses sometimes, because if your area is particularly challenging with weeds and invasives, or you're worried about erosion, having these aggressive grasses is key because it's going to hold that site for you. I probably should have used it out here because when I get to this demonstration out here, it's a challenge. But, so this one looks great. So maybe some of the species we selected, like the Monarda, this Monarda right here, it's an awesome one. And that one seems to do a good job of really putting some color pop on here. This one looked better than it does right here as far as blooms are concerned. My biggest issue with this one, there's too many open spaces in it. So since there's no grasses, there's open spaces, and what that is opportunity for invasives, woodies, and erosion. So this one here is not working as well because there's open spots. Why do I put this on here? Because there's trash in there. And I've heard one of the biggest things is these meadows are just trashy. Where do you think that trash is going to go if that meadow is not there? It's going to go directly into your water system. So this is good that trash is there. Because now I can go in here and I can pick it up and I can take it and put it in the trash. So this is, I always like pointing that out, that is a benefit from a meadow, is that you're going to be able to trap trash from getting into your advanced or your natural water system. Here's just a couple more pictures of species that you can expect. Purple coneflower, butterfly weed, black-eyed Susan. There's a nice mix in there. You can even see this leaf right here looks kind of like it could be a sunflower too. So there's a wide range of mix in there. And the reason why we do that is because we want diversity within these plots for bloom times, bloom color, bloom shapes, because it's going to support different pollinators and beneficial predatory insects based on that. Plus, you have different colors in there, it kind of pops a little bit. And then also, if you have, like, for instance, this year, swamp milkweed, man, at the beginning of the year, it looked amazing. Pink, it was beautiful. But if that's all you had, by August, it looked like crap because the aphids tore it up. So if you had it dispersed in there, that's not going to look so bad. And the other ones are going to take up some of that spot. So that's another reason why it's good to have a diversity of what you have in here, because if one struggles, you're not necessarily going to see it in a diverse Plug shrub trees. I'm getting pretty short, so I'm going to go through quick. This is the nice little Milford Community Gardens. Anybody from Milford or in that area, stop up there. I have a plot there with this with this sign. You can take a look at it, see some of the insects you can expect to see, some of the plants you can expect to see as well. This was 2022. I started with, you can see it was just wiregrass around here, same treatment. I did glyphosate a couple times and then planted plugs. I try to plant tight in here. I should have even gone tighter than that. I got pretty lucky on this one because we did a little bit of after treatment to help get those started beforehand. But you want, if you're not gonna mulch it, you're not gonna do like the intensive management like a normal landscape, you're gonna need to plant these in here as tight as possible in order to suppress weeds. And also, if you do have a weed or two, they're gonna blend in.
Did you remove the turf? Did you turn the soil and remove the turf?
You don't, so you do wanna get rid of the existing vegetation. I would not recommend turning it over because you're gonna bring up weeds.
That's right. Okay. Just want to know.
Definitely aerate when you're seeding, so you get a little bit more of that seed contact. But yeah, if you turn over the soil, well, it also depends. So if it's a super compacted place, you don't have a choice. So maybe turn over the soil early. When stuff starts to grow back up, terminate then, and then plant into that. But yeah, it's a lot of the weed seed comes up when you start turning it over. So as you can see, 2022, this is a little bit after I planted it. Things started looking good. I got some trees in there. These are persimmons. This is a red bud. I've got some pretty good plant growth there. This is a couple of like I think this was in July. So it looks a little wild. So this is one that's not for an entrance per se, but this is perfect. This is great. You got goldenrods in here. You have Monarda in here. You have all kinds of different asters and things like that that are not blooming yet in this picture, blooming now. And then those trees are eventually going to get big. So this is like one of those things, you might have heard pocket forest, that there's things going on with that right now. This is another way to do that, put that herbaceous layer in there. But this one is this is a really good example too of things kind of taking off. I added on to it, did a different treatment. So this one, I prepped it by putting a tarp down for a couple of months. And it worked out really well, honestly. And then this is what it looked like last year. And look, I planted that at the end of July. All right. With my wife and I had a daughter last year, right in May, I needed to be doing everything. So everything got done late. Still worked out great. Look at it. This is 2024, this is 2025. A lot of survivability. Had to make sure we got a lot of water on it. That's a big thing. But planting it in there tight, the weed suppression in here it's not, I haven't had to do a lot of maintenance on this because that they're taking care of themselves. And there is some in there, but it blends in a little bit more. EIP breakwater, this is the one I was mentioning that we needed to design, right? So we got together with a landscape architect student, they did a design. This is what it kind of looks like right now. I was kind of scared by this, but they're still happy because even though this swamp milkweed looked great beginning of the year, it looks bad now. But it's in here tight enough that everything else is kind of blending it in there. It's kind of like a mosaic. So there's more grouping in this planting than most of the other ones that I've been doing. But this one is so far so good. The community is very happy.
The milkweed's good for butterfly.
Absolutely. We had pictures of monarchs in there not 1 month after we planted. So yeah, if you plant it, they will come. We did have some challenges. So as you can see here, this one, we should have planted it tighter if we weren't going to mulch it, but they wanted it to be a focal point. They put a little birdhouse in here. You can see over here, weeds and their survivability was less. So we ended up mulching. So we are going to fill in this. This is what it looks like right now. We're going to plant some more this fall, but we're going to fill this back in to make it look like that. But if you don't plant it tight enough, this is what you're going to deal with. And it's not going to look as, so we did have to mulch that part. And then lastly, this is my challenge out here. So the Carville site is just back here. There's a stormwater pond. We started with this. You can see this is a pretty wild area back next to the pond. Not a ton of management has been done here over the years. There's also a lot of agronomic weeds in here, which farmers are great at managing, but me, a little bit more of a challenge in these systems. So we sprayed it several times. You can see there's no common ragweed here. I wasn't worried about common ragweed. Everything we sprayed it, killed it. Everything looks good. We're ready to go. We did miss our planting time several times. We had a plant last December. We treated it, we aerated it, we spread it with sawdust. So we mixed it with sawdust. We did spread it about 1 inch deep. You can see we needed a skid steer to spread it. It's about 1/3 of an acre. So the bigger you get, the more you're going to need to do that. This is the way it go. And we ended up spreading it in December. That's the wrong time of year to do it, but that's when we had to do it. So this is part of the challenges that you face when you're getting things installed. And so this is year 1. So this was last December when we planted it. So this is what it looked like a couple months ago after 1 mow. So that's another thing. So when things start to come up, we want to mow several times the first year to get those weed species, prevent those from dropping down seed to hopefully get that meadow going up after that. And first year is going to be a challenge. Second year a little bit better. Third year you should really start seeing what your meadow is going to look like from year to year. But there's a ton of common ragweed here, and I was just where it come from. It was just waiting in the wings. You don't see a lot of grass weeds here because the sawdust is doing what it's supposed to do. It's those seeds that germinate in the more shallow portion, those weeds aren't coming up. But common ragweed was laying there and waiting for its opportunity. And so that's the biggest thing I'm dealing with right now. Tracy, I need to get it mowed right now. If we can put that request in there. But that's kind of where we're at right now. And I had a couple more pictures of what we've seen. I am happy with what is germinating. There is a ton of native pollinator plants in there, but they're going to need help in order to get up. And that means I'm going to need to mow several times. I'm going to need to be a little bit more intentional and intensive on my management at the beginning because of that challenge. Like I said, waste management, I didn't have to deal with any of that. I've not done hardly any management at waste management. I didn't need to. The only thing I've done is a couple of wood species like mulberry has come up in my plots. I cut them and treat the stump and we're done. But that's because that site didn't have anything.
The biggest issue was the extreme drought.
That's
why we had to wait, and that is a challenge in itself. There was no moisture at all.
This whole one back here was a challenge, but I am confident that in year 3 we're going to have a really nice meadow out there just because I could see the foundation already built. And I went out this morning and got some pictures. This is of it this morning. Like I got Susan, we got a couple more. This one, we got one little coneflower is blooming, but there's a bunch of them in there. And they're coming up. And I used grass in the seed mix, so you can see some of the grasses are starting to come in. And this is what I use. And so again, don't worry about looking at it now. But I will send this presentation out to you guys, and you can see kind of what we chose. And again, I didn't choose the Indian grass, and there might be, I don't know if there's no switchgrass. If I had to do it over again, I probably would have picked those because of the weed pressure. But I did not expect common ragweed to come in that heavy. I expected some agronomic weeds here and there, but that's going to be my biggest challenge. And I think I'm out of time now, so I can stop there. And again, happy to answer any other questions. Come back and see us again. Like I said, that's gonna be an ongoing project. I'm gonna keep that going for a while. And I just took over managing that pond too, so that thing needs a lot of help. So we're gonna be doing a lot with that. But again, just because it's a challenge doesn't mean we shouldn't take it on. And cost, real quick. Cost of this, the carnival seating. Now, we didn't have to pay for equipment because we had it here, so that's gonna drive price up a little bit. But the sawdust for a third of an acre, an inch deep, was about $900. The seed mix itself for that small of an amount, the one that I use, I think, let me see what I pay. I paid, it's $51 per acre. Or $51 per pound. Recommended 15 pounds per acre, so you can do the math on that. So, you know, it's a lot cheaper than planting cloves, because this one right here, with volunteer labor, so no labor charge, this cost me easily, including design, let me see, I'd say about $6,500. And this is, I mean, it's a pretty big area in the grand scheme of things, but it's a lot more expensive than would be.
What was the square footage on that?
I'll have to let you know, because we didn't do it perfectly with this design. I shrunk this a little bit, and it was because of money, right? I didn't even do this side over here because I didn't have the money to do it, you know, but why it got really expensive is you can see this grid here. This was supposed to be like planted with a ton of sedge. And so that would have drove the price up, just unmanageable. So we shrunk it due to those financial constraints. So that's another thing. You can get it designed, but do it piecemeal, do it smaller, because, you know, plugs are gonna be expensive. That's just the nature of it if you're not gonna do seeds. They're gonna look a lot better to some, due to just, you know, how you plan a house. Happy to answer any other questions later on, or if you want to email me, I'm perfectly happy with it. And again, like I said, talk to your contractors back there if they're going management on that, see what they got to. Because this is just the way that's been researched. There's been other successful ways employed as well. Any quick questions?